Welcome to the Going Rogue with Wes Whitlock podcast. All right, man. Already having a great time. I have Mike Mihalski here from Sons of Liberty Gunworks. He builds some of the baddest guns out there. I actually have 0001 Stamp Lone Star, still my favorite gun. Mike's a buddy too, man. We go back quite a few years. We got a lot of cool stories. I'm stoked to have you here as one of my first guests, dude. Thank you for coming up from San Antonio, and man, stoked to have you, bro.
Dude, it's really good to be here. All these years, man. I remember sitting at that bench, man, in that parking lot.
Yes.
having some beers, man, talking about how we're gonna conquer the world, you know.
Yeah, that's right, man. What was it? 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever. Yeah, I was just kind of getting things started up. Mike was just starting Sons, and we used to like to, in the beginning, we just sit there and talk, have a few beers. Yeah, we were at a picnic bench in front of a 7-Eleven or something, man, and we're just kind of talking about, what some of our goals were and how he was going to take, what he was going to do with his gun company. At the time, I think you were just working out of your garage or something.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's funny to think back at that night. There were multi-million-dollar plans made at that bench over a couple of beers that were
and some
actually
shady contracts from Africa.
Some shady, yeah, a PKM, and yeah. But
you ever had the PKM in the parking lot of Subway? That's right.
But what's awesome is that those plans and those conversations, they actually materialize. I mean, look where we both are. Sitting there having these conversations, and now they happen. That's pretty neat that we were able to execute.
Yeah, no, dude, you hit execution's everything, and a lot of us, I want to do this, I want to do that. And we hear it from a lot of dudes, a lot of people want to, but it's rare now to see somebody actually fully go through that gate and open and try to at least try to execute it, and then actually doing it, which is cool. I remember going to when the range had opened up, the range, a big shooting facility here in Austin, huge multi-million-dollar indoor shooting range, beautiful, and went in there and to talk to Jeff, and we were doing some business at the time there, and look up on the wall, you got SIG, Remington, Benelli, all these huge multi-million-dollar gun companies who've been established for years. And then boom, Sons of Liberty, man. I was like, hell yeah, man, that's fucking Mike stuff right there. So I love, you're like me, man. We're the underdog guys. We're the Rockies, man. The dudes that are down and grinding and going up against some big companies, man. Some bigger players out there who've been established, and and that's another reason even for this podcast is dudes who go rogue, man. Dudes that are doing things different and doing them on their own. Walking their own path and on their own time and dime and money and energy, and Mike's one of those guys for sure. He's a trailblazer, and he does his own thing, man, and that's really what this whole thing's really about. So you're a perfect guy to be on here, man, and just talking about stuff like that it's inspiring, and it's motivating, and like you said with that, there's a lot of times, dudes, we fall too, and things happen, and you got to get back up and keep going, and then and you've seen that, I'm sure, being in the gun industry and growing. Sometimes you can grow too fast, and with that there's problems with growing too fast, because now you got to find parts and people, and so yeah, dude. Another rumor I heard too, I heard it from a guy, that you have the brother of a very famous pianist. Is he a pianist?
So one of our best armors at the shop, man. This guy, he comes in, he works his ass off. Quiet guy, but he toured with Slayer for 30 years. That was his resume. I was like, do you have any experience?
You're like hired.
Yeah, it's like, do you have any experience with guns? He's like, no. It's like, but with his brother is Tom Araya, the lead singer of Slayer, which is so badass. But Johnny Araya, our guy, he is, just a beast, man. And for Sons of Liberty, we don't hire based on experience, because I can teach somebody how to do the Sons of Liberty way, but I can't teach you how to be cool, and I can't teach you how to give a shit, right? Yep. That's
or
something,
to be part of a culture,
part of a culture, to believe in something. That we hire based on chemistry, right?
Yep.
But what's cool about looking at guys that have been in the music industry, sound engineers, stage techs, they have a meticulous way of doing things, very methodical, very step by step. They're detail oriented, and that's what you need to be a good armorer, you know. And then caring about what you're doing and believing in a cause, dude.
Yep.
Like that's the ingredients of that. That's our secret. Our secret is that we have the best team in the industry working with us, man. Nobody's there to punch a clock. Yep. Everybody's there for the cause.
Well, dude, you have legit human skulls and a bar at your shop, bro. So come on, who doesn't want to work there?
Yeah, it's definitely it's a cool environment, man. And it's not just a gun company. I mean, it's a culture. It's a way of life. It's a belief system. So not only are we putting out some of the best fighting guns in the country, endurance rifles, we're also, I think we have a message,
Yeah, no,
it's made a difference.
That's what I think people, why people relate to Sons, and the message and kind of what you've built is different from the other gun industry, the gun companies are out there. It is more of a culture, not just a gun culture, but it's kind of relating to that dude who wants a good, high quality gun and believes in a certain way of life here in America, and that's usually, they're, in my opinion, great Americans. You attract that type of supporter, but you're also giving him a tool and a gift, really, to keep his life safe and secure in his family, and you put a lot of passion on your gun. So you've done that well, and I think people understand that and see it. And if they don't, that's good too, which is cool. You want to kind of be the slayer of the gun world, man.
Yeah, this industry is. I mean, I've met some really good friends. There's some really solid people in this business. As a matter of fact, some of the most generous and just incredible people I've met through the firearms industry.
Isn't that so true?
It really is.
That world is very giving, and all the dudes I know in that, very good people, man, and they're usually freaking hard workers, dude. They usually same way, they busted their ass and made it somewhere. So no, you're that perception of the gun people, ooh, they're bad, horrible. Actually, no, dude, they're actually some of the best people I know.
I actually have a funny story we'll come back to on that exact topic. What I was going to say is that the one thing that I'm a little bit frustrated with the industry, though, is that it's very, very sterile, and a lot of people do their best to tiptoe around what it is that we actually do. And so you have modern sporting rifles, and they're trying to change the language and the way that we're perceived by people who don't like us. I have come to the conclusion that they're not going to like us no matter what we do. And so no matter how sterile and no matter how PC we try to be, you're never going to please people that just don't believe in what you're doing and don't believe that you should even be able to own some of these rifles. So instead of putting any effort to appease those people, I just go all in for our team, and we're pretty unapologetic. I build fighting guns. We're not modern sporting rifles. We build guns to end fights, and that's our approach. And I think that has resonated with people that are just tired of having to tiptoe around everything.
Right. Yep. No, that's a great way to put it. And you do see it in that world. Like if you look at the Dick's Sporting Goods and these places, this is outdoor sporting equipment, whatever, and then they have to pull them because, somebody wrote an article about how bad guns are. But you don't have that problem at all, which is you're staying true and authentic to what you do and what you build and what you're about and what your products are about. And you're right. I think a lot of people say, I want to try to appease everybody, and I don't want to pigeonhole myself here or there. But sometimes this is my demographic. This is who we're going after, and we're going to stick true to who we are, because then you're staying true to them as well, so it works. So yeah, you guys do that well. And like I said, man, you go down to your shop, man, you could feel it. You can shoot down there. Mm-hmm. You got a cool bar there. You got legit human skulls in there from Germany or Austria or something.
I think the Russian front, dude.
Russian front, yeah. And they got engravings on. Yeah, it's got that cool feel and energy to it. And then all your guys are good too. Everybody I've met down there just very passionate about what they do. It's kind of reminds me a little bit of a Cheryl Kelby in a way. He built the badass Cobra, and that dude was rogue as hell, man. He went in there and said, I'm going to build the best race car out there. I'm going to crush the Italians on their home turf with a Ford. Unheard of fucking joke. No way. Never going to happen. Laughed at him. and he put together a stellar team of engineers and mechanics and race car drivers. And look what he did. Won the Le Mans, 4 or 5 times. Yeah. Unheard of. So, and that's staying true to what he did, but also surrounding himself with really good dudes that were good at what they did. So you guys do that really well down at Suns.
Yeah, and having the confidence to look at all the people that are telling you this is a crazy idea, it's never going to work.
Right.
I mean, both you and I'm sure we heard that 1,000 times. Like don't quit your day job, man. This is not going to work. But in order, I think, to build a successful company, I mean, you have to be pretty stubborn, and you have to kind of be really focused on what you're doing, almost hyper focused, to where you can put the blinders on to some degree and not let any of that stuff come in the way. Carroll Shelby, great example.
Yeah. No, you find that kind of pattern in a lot of folks that they're kind of doing that, going down their own road, and
you see something they don't. He sees something they don't.
Right. And like you said, you could be that guy's this or that or selfish or whatever. No, man, the dude's passionate, and that's what his vision is and what's driving him inside. So a lot of people will let that determine, like, I want to do this, but I got family or whoever saying, dude, that's not a good idea. You should think about this. You're being an asshole because that's all you want to think about. You selfish piece of shit. You know what I mean? I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, no, man, I'm building something I'm passionate about, and I'm a big picture guy, too. I'm like, there's a bigger picture than this, and what I'm doing right now. There's something down the road that I'm going to be able to do with this, what I'm doing now. So it's having that focus, like you said, and having that vision, and having that bigger picture down the road that you really only you can see, because it's hard to explain that to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to be kind of singularly focused. I know that, for me, in my path, in my journey, for when we started to where we're getting, and by the way, man, we're still learning every day. We have by no means made it, dude. I mean, we're still clawing, and we're still the little guys in the overall thing. But in my own journey, it did cost me some relationships early on. I mean, because
absolutely,
there's no such thing as 5 o'clock. That doesn't mean shit. Saturday doesn't mean anything. I mean, you're constantly grinding, and you're pushing towards one thing, and I think that's the price that a lot of founders and entrepreneurs and CEOs and stuff, that's the price they pay.
Yeah, no, and that's something you need to think about for those folks that do want to go down that road or do feel that you will lose relationships, you will lose friends, you will lose people that were once close to you, and it could be that because I've had that example, like, hey man, out having a good time. You like to have a good time. Me, I've had good times together, man. But it's like, you're like, well, dude, I got to be at my booth at this time, or I got to be at my shop to make sure I'm there for the delivery guys bringing my the parts or whatever it may be. Yeah. So there's a responsibility with that. And once you start putting your energy and time into your responsibilities as an entrepreneur, business person, a lot of people won't like that because now you can't hang with them as much. You can't go stay out as late, or you can't do certain things you were able to do in the past because now it's all on you. Because if you're like, I'm just not going to show up to my booth, I just paid $20,000 for a SHOT Show because I want to stay out late and party all night, and that's on you. If you're working for somebody, I'm sick, I can't come in today. Okay,
we'll find someone to cover. Yeah,
right. Everything's on you, man. So it drives you, and in a way may turn you a little bit into an asshole with certain people because you're like, dude, this is how I have to do this.
You do isolate. There's 24 hours in the day, and you start to look at the economy of time. You start looking at minutes. Is where I'm spending my time right now? Is it getting me closer to where I want to be? Is it advancing the goal? And I mean, I can see now why when you talk to like older people that have already made their fortunes and have already, super established people that are looking back at their life, you hear the story all the time. Like, I wish I would have spent more time with family. I wish I would have done this and this. And like, I think in hindsight, that stuff makes a lot of sense. But when you're driving forward, you don't see it that way. I mean, all you can see is that target, and you're just advancing forward.
Yeah, it's a real hard one to balance for sure. And I felt times where I should have been somewhere else. I try, and just you have a kid too, and family. It's me. I look at it this way. I grew up poor, bro. So my goal now, my hunger, my drive is to make sure my kids will never have to go through that. They'll have opportunities I never had. So, okay, I might not have been there to meet your teacher, but I've busted my ass today. Make sure you can have horseback lessons, have drum lessons, have these opportunities, and but it's trying to explain that to them away when they're young is hard. So I think at the end of the day, in the big picture, they'll understand that what you were doing was really for them, and for your vision and goal. But it is, you have to force yourself sometimes to say, you know what, I need to break off from this. I got to go be there for these important people in my life because I don't want to lose them or break that relationship. So you have to be disciplined in that.
Yeah, you do carve out the time, and you do. I mean, you're not completely, you're not a complete ass pipe, but,
right?
But overall, though, when you look at it, yeah.
No, the old black and white Orson Welles film or whatever. He was so passionate about what he did, made all these millions of dollars, but he was a complete asshole. Everybody hated him. Then he died, and his life sucked. I can't think of the movie, but yeah, it's one thing to be passionate and driven and focused and all that, but not to completely shut off everything else in your life.
Yeah, you try to find some balance. I think that's hard early on. I think you can eventually achieve that once you kind of get over some of those first hills, But I mean, early on, it's pretty demanding.
Yeah, in the early days, it is very, and the goal is later on. Hopefully, you get to the point where this is established. I've built it. It's operating good. I got good people. I can go ahead and punch out now and take off for a week or two and go spend a great time with my family, while my shop is running efficiently. So that's kind of the goal too. Is get to that point where you can step away and let what you built operate fine, really without you. That's the hard part, because you're not, like we all know, you're never going to find that dude that believes in your business as much as you do, or who will put in as much effort as you do. This just won't happen. It's very rare. So for us that have built something from nothing, it's harder for us to step away and say, let me let somebody else run this. So yeah, that's one day I hope to find that dude, bro. So if somebody's out there, it's hard to find that, and people want to do their own thing too. So it's the way of the world, man. It's a way of our economy. But yeah, dude. So I know you've been, you're very active as well in the gun community. So what's cool about you is your responsibility of not only do you make great guns and have established this great culture, but you're also involved with the politics behind it, which there's going to be you're going to be building guns. You're going to be involved in the politics that surround the gun and the gun community. So I know you've spoken at events, and you've been active with different politicians on establishing different laws and stuff like that on gun ownership. And what are you seeing kind of overall in your business and in your world of knowing the gun really well? Kind of what direction is that going with Americans?
Man, so this year's been a pretty bad year for America, but it's been a pretty good year for guns.
Yep.
It's unprecedented. The amount of new gun owners that are coming into the fray, the amount of people that are starting to accept the fact that the Second Amendment has nothing to do with quail hunting.
Right.
I mean, I've being on these panels, like you said, I am an advocate. I do go out there. I'm constantly on debate stages. I'm doing interviews. I've made relationships with people on the other side. Whenever you sit there and yell debate, at a town hall meeting a couple times, you get to know each other. And so I've had people that are traditionally anti-gun approach me about buying guns, because at this point it's no longer about, some intangible idea. It's now, no, you may have to defend that toilet paper stash you have. You might.
It might be coming to your door soon.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is that not one time has anybody ever asked me for the gun that holds the least amount of bullets. Yep. Or our we ship a lot of guns to California, and the calls and complaints that I get about the 10-day waiting period, I'm like, dude, you voted for that. That's there you go, man. This is why we advocated against it, because if you're expecting the hordes of zombies to come to your house, tomorrow, you don't got 10 days, dude.
Yeah.
And so I think people are starting to understand the absurdity and the idiocy of some of these gun laws, and then people are also accepting the fact that like your own protection is in your hands. That there's a level of self-reliance there,
especially nowadays when they're defunding the police.
Defunding police, yeah.
So who's going to protect you, or your family? You are, and guess what? You're going to need to do that. You're going to need a gun.
You're going to need a gun, and I think people are realizing that they don't want to be the only guy on their cul-de-sac without one. Yeah. And so my goal, what I would like to see happen, is to retain even 5 or 10% of these new gun owners that are coming into the fold, and kind of get them to at least be less enthusiastic about opposing you. Sometimes you can't turn somebody to like being a full-fledged supporter and carrying the banner, right? But you can make them less enthusiastic about opposing you when it's time. And in a little bit of advocacy and a little bit of reaching out, we can achieve that. So,
well, I think I like how you put that, and I see it too. I know people even 2 years ago were like, "Oh my God!" Now they're coming to me like, "I'm thinking about getting a gun. I just don't know what kind, or where should I go train?" I'm seeing that a lot from dudes 2 years ago that were like, "What do you need a gun for?" So that is a fact. That's a fact for sure.
There is another side to that coin though, and it's interesting because I said I'd like to keep 5 to 10%. Like we are going to lose the majority of them, I think, just realistically speaking. I want to have a realistic expectation, okay? But there are people that come to me and say, hey, I want a weapon for defense. Like, what do you suggest? And I'll tell them, hey, the AR-15 is the best defensive platform a civilian can own. That is the best defensive platform you can own to protect your house, to protect your cul-de-sac, whatever. And a lot of these people that have made the leap to finally purchase a gun.
I remember everybody used to say it was a shotgun. Shotgun's the best home defense, and I'll take an AR over a shotgun any day, man.
Day, right? I mean, there's data-driven results. Yeah. But you'll see these guys come into the gun scene, and they're still not ready to make that leap. Like they'll buy a shotgun, they'll buy a handgun, but like the stigma of the AR is just
AR-15 or whatever
it's a bridge too far. So I mean, I want to have a realistic expectation.
When they both at the end of the day have the same purpose, So
you want an unfair fight, right?
You want to have the upper hand, man. Yeah. It's like you want to have the big block, not the straight six when you're racing or something. You know what I mean? So why not? And then the other thing I wanted to. Because now that guns they are part of our culture. Now you see, because of social media, you see it even more. It is more your face. Of course, I'm pro-gun but I'm also like the responsible gun owner. I like the guy. I don't want to be the guy that takes my kids to Chipotle and I got a guy walking in there with an AK strapped to his back because it's his right to do so. That I don't agree with, and I think that leaves a bad stigma for people because they see that and it's scary. That's my take on that. Going to Walmart and all that. Yeah, it might be you're right, but most of the dudes, like legit gun dudes, I know they don't want people to know they have a gun. I don't want nobody to know I have a gun.
Yeah, I kind of want it to be a surprise when I draw down on you. Yeah, I mean, and look, dude, the way I look at it, like this is one of those really. I want to be very clear. I personally would not put on armor and a rifle and go order a burrito. Like that is, I don't see the value in that. Right. And if you look at things like Starbucks, they had no gun policy before, and now they have a gun policy that did not go in our favor because of, some of this activism. Now, activism is never pretty. I mean, you look at some of the guys that are putting it in your face and strapping up and doing that stuff. There is a place for it. Because a right not exercised is a right lost, And with that being said, I always ask people to define your goals. What are you trying to achieve? And
right.
Are you trying to?
Is it about you or is it about?
Is it about the cause or what?
Picture.
Yeah, I mean, and so I try to encourage people to be smart in what you're doing. Like I said, make sure you have a defined goal. If it's just to piss off other people. That goal has no end. There's nothing to achieve there. I mean, it's easy. You can piss somebody off I could piss somebody off real easy.
It's just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you need to to do it all the time. You might be right to do certain things, but what's the end goal to that? Is it to really to somebody because it's your right to do so?
Here's a great example. Look, man, if you own a business downtown Austin and they're about to, and you're standing out front of that business, dude, with your plates and with your rifle, man,
I'm all about that, dude, for sure.
That is why that right exists. Okay, right. You stand there and you hold your ground, man, and that's why that right. Going to order a burrito, like, while you have the right to do so, that really wasn't the founder's intent, right. Or that wasn't how, so you got to be smart about it. I applaud the guys that are standing out there protecting their businesses, protecting what they built.
100%. Yeah. And I think like you said, that's why that was written in there. For the absolutely. Pure purpose of protecting your business, life, family, people around you. Yeah. Versus, the other, going in, like say, I just, and then what that does is it makes the cause even harder because now you're causing all this controversy and people are upset. And like I said, then policies are made with business say, oh, now no guns are allowed in here.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, if you're trying to get some kind of precedent set and you're trying to challenge something, then again, I mean, no activism is ever really pretty. I just don't think you're doing anybody, any favors, and you're widening that divide. Which, going back to what I said though before, I don't really put a lot of effort into appeasing the other side because I don't think you can. At the same time, like, Starbucks did not have a gun policy at one point, Right. I mean, like, so there's that,
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those subjects that's touchy with a lot of folks and stuff. I guess to me, I look at it. I've been carrying one since I was 18. It's part of my life, man. It's part of It's a tool. I see it as a tool. It's part of your life. It just like a tool. You're a handyman. You're a craftsman. You use a saw to work. Do you go into a saw and get a burrito, or go into Chipotle to get a burrito with your saw because it's your, what I mean? It just makes people uncomfortable. But
it's an interesting Listen, dude. So the reason why this conversation is almost a little bit uncomfortable, and let's just call out the 600-pound gorilla in the room, dude. Right. The gun culture invented the cancel culture. Before the left ever adopted it, our side, kind of invented that to where if somebody made a statement, like Tim Kennedy, he made a statement one time about like the legal age to buy a gun, and like, all these people from, the gun culture that crucified the man. I didn't agree with his statement that you should be 21 years old to buy a gun. I didn't agree with that, but that doesn't mean I don't like the guy, or I don't respect the guy, or I don't like the fact that he's making guns, more mainstream, that he's, and so you don't have to agree with everybody on everything. That doesn't mean that, like, they're your sworn enemy for life,
And today it seems like that's kind of how people are. It's like,
it is, dude.
Dude, we don't have to agree on, but we can hang out and have a good time. I like you, we're friends, whatever, but we don't have to agree on everything.
Well, you won't.
Like, screw that guy.
Dude, I wouldn't. That'd be the most boring fucking conversation of all time, I mean, I'd rather just sit and talk to myself, I mean, like, so.
And it is good to learn another. Let me hear your side, man. Let me hear what you have to say. And I've learned this in counseling. You sometimes have to step out of your own shoes and say, let me just try to hear them out. Let me try to hear it from their side. And then based on fact, education and training and stuff like that, I'm going to develop my own theory on what I think should be right. So, and it's,
and there's also no nuance in these conversations. So people, you're trying to have a conversation about like a complex, policy or how can we weigh this, that, whatever. And they don't. Everything is boiled down to a 5-second soundbite, and that is going to be your legacy, dude, for the rest of your life, man. Fuck everything you've ever done for, for the cause. I mean, you're excommunicado, dude. And that's unfortunately like. That's the world we live in. We eat our own, dude. We eat our own all the time.
Well, you know what got, like, talking about the gun community and all that, like, that's what. That couple that was in Missouri, whatever, that protected their property, the guy in the badass pink shirt.
I tried like hell to give that dude some guns, man.
Well, but if you saw the backlash, I thought what they did, for what they know, they did what they needed to do and was right. But a lot of the gun could come out, oh, look at his fingers pointed like this. And, dude, you know how many people own guns out there who don't have legit training? They don't.
The majority, vast majority.
Most people don't. So to sit there and bash people who are doing what their right is to do with that gun. Yeah, do they have the tactical training to say, yeah, I believe you should train. Trust me, I've got training, safety, all you should do these things. Do the vast majority of people have guns, have time, effort? Do they do that? No, they buy a gun, they put it in a closet. bad guy shows up, him and his wife grab a gun, and they're flagging the hell out of each other. But, you know, to go in there and bash them because they haven't been to Paul Howell's course or trained with Pat McNamara, guess what, dude? You know, most people don't. You know, not saying that
very
you
few
should
people.
train.
No. What's funny is that, you have these people that are like crucifying him because of like the weapons handling. And then the inverse, right? There's a video of you in the back of that Blazer, dude, just gunning the hell out of that Lone Star gun, man. And then you see some of the like the peanut gallery champion, like, you know what? Why are you throwing the safety on? You know, like, so if you're using safety,
right,
you know, oh, why are you doing that? And if you're not, oh, you know, so I mean, you can't please everybody.
Right.
Don't even try. But we need to look at the overall concept, right? And the concept is, here are some people that decided to stand up for their property, for their own security.
Right.
That's the thing. I mean, like, their selection of weapons. I mean, he ran out there barefoot. You know, I mean, like, you know, I mean,
it was like the greatest picture ever.
Oh,
it
was. It was
awesome.
Yeah, it was great. But I would rather people focus on the big picture, and the big picture is, hey, man, property rights are real. Yeah. You know, gun rights are real. The natural right to self-defense. And that's what we should be talking about. That's not what the conversation is. It always devolves into,
look at his finger, or his tactics, or whatever.
Yeah, this is my safety. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm big on training and safety. And I think everybody who has. So then you go down that road. So all these guys, like, it's my right to have a gun, and no training whatsoever. Okay, it's your right. But that's the first person will go on and bash somebody for positioning their gun in the wrong way. Okay, so should those people have had proper training, tactical high-speed training, to be able to purchase a gun?
No.
Okay, no. So you can't have you can't
have it both
ways. So if you want everybody to be handling weapons like they're a unit guy, they're not going to get guns until they have a gun. They have to be trained up. So which way do you want it? Or no training, go buy a gun.
Yeah, that's the litmus test, right? So, like, do I need some sort of like a civics degree in order to exercise my First Amendment right? You know, do I need to have a permit? You know, do I need to have a law degree to be protected by the Fourth Amendment? Like, no, like, these are natural rights, and there is no prerequisites. Same thing with having a gun. Like, you know, I would like to see more and more people trained. I mean, you know,
absolutely.
And we both. I mean, look at our lifestyles. I mean, we constantly train. We promote guys that are at the top of their game for training. You know, to actually, so we're advocates for that. At the same time, you know, it's kind of hard to sell that on people that have nothing to learn. That's another problem too. Like, there's a lot of people that feel that they have nothing to learn.
I know, that's sad. There's so much out there too
things change. I mean, even if you learn some tactics back in 1994, I mean, the game has changed, bro. It's so fluid, you know, like
high ready, now it's low ready, and then it's back to high. You know, it changes all the time.
It's a perishable skill, so it's one of those things I would encourage people to continuously do. But yeah, you're right though, man. Again, here's another funny thing. So I wanted to give them a gun because it pissed me off that the state could step in and just take their shit,
right? You
know, with no due process. I mean, it was completely politically driven, all right? And I said, man, I'm going to replace those guns. And I got a lot of hate mail because, like, hey, man, those guys are liberal, and this is what I'm like the Second Amendment either applies to everybody.
Yeah, you're liberal or not. He's doing...
Or it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, all of this, like, oh, I heard it on the internet, he's a liberal. Well,
right.
he just spoke at the Republican National Convention, so
right.
Be wary of the things you hear on the internet, you know, like
right, or the quotes by Lincoln.
Anything's a dildo if you're brave enough, you know, Abraham Lincoln.
And that's you know, that's part of the problem with that. That's the social media, is that people believe what they see, you know, and you know, get the facts, man, and get the education, and you know, but you in the gun world, I'm sure is very political. And you got to kind of understand what the laws are and the ownership rights and stuff. So,
and there's a difference, right? So if you were to ask Mike Mihalski, the owner of Sons of Liberty, about, you know, NFA laws and things like that, like, well, you know, I have an agreement with the government to operate in business, and so, like, that under that hat, like, we have to play ball with short barrel rifles and NFA and, you know, stuff like that. So I mean, like, you know, there's that answer in order to stay in business. And then if you were to ask Mike Mihalski, the Texan dude, what I believe Well, bro, like, no, I do think that people should pretty much be able to own whatever they want, you know, and I think that these laws are so arbitrary. I mean, if you look at an SBR versus a pistol versus any other weapon, I mean, the qualifications for the nomenclature in those things are so arbitrary that it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous to how these laws work, and so I can see why there's a lot of frustration and confusion out there. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree 100%, and I also agree with the Mike idea of what his thoughts are, what we should be able to own. You know, I agree. We should all be able to own whatever we want when it comes to that.
Yeah.
You know, do I think background checks should be there? Personally, I do. Personally, I think if this guy's got mental disorders, he's got a track history of extreme violence, and he's been in and out, I think he should be looked at. You know,
when we do about 100 rifles for charity a year. You know, everything from the SEAL Foundation, the SEAL Legacy Foundation, to different organizations for law enforcement, fire. When I give a rifle to one of these charity organizations, I tell them, hey.
Yeah, you gave one to SAR.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, dude, that's an awesome. That's something we're so proud to support.
It's awesome.
But I tell the organization, do not hand this gun to the winner. You know, do not. Go and take it and get a background check. So therefore, you have a level of insulation between the organization and the recipient. I mean, if you don't know who that dude is, it's some guy that bought a ticket, you know, I mean, or whatever.
It was like the guy that showed up in the kilt when we were watching him at the range. We're like, that guy's going to shoot somebody.
It's like, oh man, this is how it,
You're
this
like,
is how it ends,
I saw
bro.
that guy too, man. We're both watching him.
So, I mean, I think it's good advice to put some insulation between you and wherever that weapon ends up. So, I mean, I think that there's good practices there, right? My apprehension, though, to really support some of the background check as far as universally is the only way to enforce that. The only way to enforce that is to have a national registry. So how would you know if you sold your uncle a gun without a background check? Like, the only way to know that is if there was a registration attached, or can you prove custody of that? For years the anti-gunners called us paranoid about, oh, no one's coming to take your guns. No one's coming to take your guns. And then you have Beto. Hell yeah, we're coming to take your guns, dude. Like, hell yeah. So right there, just in that one soundbite from Beto, he kind of confirmed every fear we've ever had about a national registry. Right now, bro, they have no clue what you have under your mattress, dude, nor should they.
Right.
You know, once we start getting into registries, that's scary, dude. Do you trust the government to ever do the right thing or give some power back ever?
Right.
You know, do they ever give anything back, man?
Right. No, I agree with that. I do think there should be something. You know, I think that somebody should be their background needs to be checked in some way. What's the most efficient way that's not corrupt and like there's no agendas behind it? I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know what that system would be.
In right now, man, I think
but like you said, and this is the fact. There's so many guns out there and unregistered, and the criminals they're out there all over Chicago, New York, they're on the underground. You can get guns, dude. You know, they're out there. So it's a hard one. Why should a dude that's law-abiding, never been to jail, just a good American guy that wants to buy a gun, why is it so hard for him when, dude, literally a piece of shit criminal can go and buy one right now?
Yeah.
So he can have one without anything.
So we work with a lot of agencies, you know, all over the country, and it's interesting to see how some of these things unfold, right? So there are people, I mean, sometimes they'll find like a grandma, or they'll find, you know, a mother of five that's like, you know, in a tough financial spot, and these criminal organizations will go and make her go, I mean, she'll buy 40, 50 guns in a month, you know, I mean, it's all, all straw purchases, right? And then those guns start getting retrieved in crime scenes all over, and they're able to trace back where that gun was originally purchased from, right? I mean, because there is a disposition request to ATF files, but they never pursue any charges against that, right? I mean, if you were to walk into a gun shop right now and lie on your 4473, lie on a federal document, that's a felony, right? But out of like the few 100,000 people that try a year, maybe like, I don't know, 10 or 11 people, maybe 30 people, somewhere. It's in the it's below the 3 digits, right?
Yeah.
That's how many people are ever actually prosecuted for falsifying a government document.
Wow.
And interestingly, it's an interesting stat about that. People that attempt to buy a gun under false pretenses, we know have a higher propensity for using a gun in a crime. So the laws we already currently have on the books are not enforced at all. And nobody pursues charge. I mean, some of these cases should be aggravated. You look at some, like there was a guy that just had a standoff in Philadelphia, right? It was like maybe a year and a half ago. He had shot a couple of police officers. He had the city tied down for hours and hours. You look at this dude's rap sheet, man. He had several felonious convictions for weapons charges and everything else, but he was still walking the street. And so if you're not going to actually enforce the laws we already have on the books, adding more laws, there's 22,000 gun laws currently, right?
Wow.
So, I mean, what's 22,001 going to do?
More bureaucracies, yeah.
But dude, listen, from somebody in the gun industry, I don't want crazy people to have guns. I don't want
I think that's what we're trying to get
out
here is you don't, none of us do. I don't want a dude that's fucking nuts and has violent tensions and all these things. I really don't want him to have a gun. Is it his right? Yeah, maybe. I don't know what's the best way,
answer?
What's the answer to that?
Listen, one of our first potential customers at Sons Liberty when we very first opened up. I mean, like we had nothing. It was like an empty building and then like me behind the counter. And
I remember.
Yeah. And this dude walked in, man, crying. I mean, tears and snot. I mean, this dude was in serious distress, and he had a wad of money in his hand, like balled up, and he wanted to buy a gun right now. And I'm like, dude, there's no fucking way I'm selling you. I don't know what's going on with you right now, but there's no way I'm selling you a gun. So I do think that, a little bit of discretion on behalf of, people that are selling the guns,
right.
I'm compelled by my own conscience. There's no way I'm going to sell that dude a gun.
Right.
There's something wrong, man.
Right.
Again, dude, it gets really complicated when unfortunately, laws are written with sledgehammers and not scalpels, and there's always some kind of unintended consequences.
Yep.
But as the law is written right now, background checks exist.
Right. I think that's what people don't understand. That there is some. Is it the perfect answer? No. I don't think it is either. But there is something, so people need to understand. They make it. If you listen to them, they make it sound like you can go down to 7-Eleven and buy
at a vending machine.
Yeah, that's how they make it sound, and that's not the case.
The gun show loophole, bro. Go to a gun show. Like 99.9% of the vendors there are FFLs. By law, we are obligated by federal law to do a background check.
Right, and it's your business, and they're like, you want to play by the rules, not to, you got to pay your bills, man. You don't lose your business over doing something stupid.
Mike, the owner of Sons Liberty, Mike, the Texan with the with the bad temper, right?
And the cannons.
Yeah. So I mean, these laws are already on the books. We must by threat of prosecution, dude, we must follow those laws. 22,000 gun laws, 22,001.
So that's when there are laws. There's a lot of barriers there for
sure.
It's not that easy to go and buy a gun. It's not. So that's kind of what I wanted to get at. Like I said, I'm a pro gun guy. I love guns. I've been carrying my whole life. I've been carrying them as part of my obligation and duties. So with that, it's just become part of my life.
Absolutely.
So I might see it a little bit different than a guy that just wants to buy one to put in his closet. Not that he has that right to do so. And I just wish that there would be more training involved with that. Can we make them train if they buy a gun? No. But hopefully that's part of the responsibility. So I think through the education of stuff like this, or stuff like with some of these guys teaching gun stuff online and this, they can see the importance of safety and how to carry properly. And
it is interesting to see like you are a true professional end user. I know your background. I mean, you've carried a weapon, for the purposes of why, I mean, you're a gunfighter, dude. I mean, you spend a lot of time carrying a weapon with the intent of having, well, not the intent, but the possibility of truly having to use it, right? And to see like the professional end user opinion on things, and to see the casual gun owner opinion on things, it's kind of interesting to observe that disconnect. To where you're talking about reasonable measures and you're talking about the way things would make sense. It doesn't resonate. Again, you encourage trainings. That's a way of life. You know, you have seen with your own eyes what the benefit of training is, how things evolve, how continuing that education in that field makes you harder to kill, right? Mm-hmm. It's very hard to communicate that to somebody who puts buckshot in their shot or puts birdshot in their home defense shotgun, dude, who you know.
And it's locked up in a safe, so if something happens by the time you get it, it's over anyway.
Yeah, you know? It is. That's just. It really is a bridge too far. I mean, but we keep trying, right? Don't give up.
Yeah, no, I think we're on the right path. I think, and now more than ever, like we talked about it. You know, I'm by no means paranoid guy, but I'm a realist too, and I know how bad it is out there. So if I don't have my gun with me when I go, I don't feel comfortable. You know, What am I gonna? Not even for myself, you know, but for those that are with me, I feel obligated. Or if I'm in a restaurant, I want to be that guy's gonna be able to do something, you know. And I try to express this too, and I don't want to get too much into that too, but like the medical side of things, you know, like guys that carry guns are about guns, but you probably should know how to stop some bleeding too, you know, by carrying a tourniquet and stuff like that. You know, I think we're seeing more guys do that nowadays. Now I see companies selling the tourniquet holders and stuff, so it's more convenient for a guy to carry a tourniquet. But that's the same thing. There's training that is involved with that, and more times likely that you're going to find somebody who's going to need medical attention, then you're going to have to utilize a weapon on them.
Absolutely.
You know, so you know, and I like to see the guys and gals are out there that are kind of living that and you know, wanting to be somebody who can actually respond and do something
and make a difference. Yeah, stop the bleed. I mean, there are a lot of people that have probably died in some of these high profile shooting incidents that didn't have to die because it took so long to clear the scene to actually get medical personnel in there. But if you're in there and you know how to stop the bleed, there most shootings, I mean, unless you get domed, man, or you know you've really destroyed something vital. A lot of these things are very survivable. You can get to a hospital, and then once you get to a hospital, that trauma surgeon can probably do some good, you know. Yeah. But stopping the bleeding, and that's unfortunately, again, that's something that we don't see enough. Like a tourniquet should probably be part of your EDC, man, or knowing how to apply pressure dressing, or you know, whatever, man. So I completely agree. It's just
not as cool, you know. It's not as cool and sexy. Yeah. Guns are cool and sexy and fun. And it's, you know, so
I'll post a picture of a tourniquet tonight on Instagram. Yeah. It will get like 3 likes. You know?
Right. You put an AR-15, it's like, brrr.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing more of that though. I am seeing more of that. So it's neat to see that, that taking place with the responsibility of carrying a gun. You carry some medical with you too, you know. But yeah, dude, I love what you're doing, dude. Man, shoot, dude, what else, man? So you just moved into your new shop, right?
Yeah, we just moved into a new shop. It's we finally outgrew the other one. We're about
good problems to have.
We're probably already about to outgrow, you know, the new one, you know. But like I was talking to Jeff earlier, you know, you have to be really careful because like right now this is very unnatural growth. Like this is not. There's no way to plan a business around what's happening right now, you know.
Nope.
So you can't go too heavy and start hiring a bunch of people and buying a bunch of equipment, you know, because the ass could fall out of this thing any time. And so you're trying to walk that line of what's responsible as a business owner.
Like you just said, like you say, oh man, we're growing. I'm trying to forecast. Let me go out and buy this building and hire more people, and then 6 months from now things start changing. So that's being a realist and an experienced business owner, is knowing when to pull triggers on utilizing your capital and your growth strategy versus going with what's happening at this moment. Because we all know too, and that's economics 101. Everything can change tomorrow, man. Whatever's happening today and yesterday, but tomorrow, look what happened with this corona. Nobody saw that coming.
Dude,
I know a lot of bar owners, you know.
Oh my God,
crushed. Man. You know, like they just bought new canning devices and new. Moved into new buildings and hired new people because they were growing, and the next day they had to shut down, dude. So crushed. You know?
Man,
I mean, you can't predict that.
Yeah, they're saying like, you know, potentially 60 to 70% of, you know, independently mom and pop kind of family owned restaurants and bars may never recover, dude. I mean, think about that, you know. Yeah. I mean, and all of these like small businesses that have really just been devastated, man. You know. It's an interesting time, and I wonder what the new normal is going to look like. I mean, you know, will we ever truly go back to normal, and what's that going to be? I have fucking no idea. You
I think it's gonna be a long time. At first when I was like, oh, this will last a few weeks, a few months, but it's progressing and it's not. Everything's still changing. So it's, everybody who's out there everybody's feeling the effects of it. It could be a negative, a positive, whatever. And you're the same way, and other guys I talk to, I take this as an opportunity if you can to make changes in your life or whatever, because now's the time to really reflect on what you can do to turn a negative into a positive.
Yeah, we've learned some pretty cool lessons. So Sam, we technically could be close to even outgrowing the new spot, but when this Corona thing first started, we broke the shop up into like multiple teams, and so you'd have a team come in, work, disinfect. The next team would come in, work. If you ever had one guy on one crew pop positive and you had to quarantine that crew, you still have like two crews going, right? So we were operating literally around the clock.
Yeah, I remember talking to you when that was going down.
Yeah, so we, what that taught me though, is that you can utilize the same amount of square footage and double your work output if you have like a night shift. So instead of having to go and build 30 new workbenches, you could have a crew come in and work on the same. And so so we've had to learn some lessons on how to work around it, and it teaches you how to be lean. You adapt, and that's the only way to survive, man. You have to find a way to adapt.
Yeah, no, you're right. You gotta find a way to adapt, to be efficient with what you have at that moment. And that's a good example of space, because I need a bigger place. No, not really, man. You can actually just change your schedule around a little bit, or change your workforce around a little bit, and utilize what you have. I think for anybody, utilize what you have available to you at that moment, versus spending more money and capital to expand things there. Utilize that money into what's going to bring you true return.
And you start looking at some of the stuff that you didn't need, right? Like, I mean, we spent a ton of money on traveling to conventions and shows and demos, and
it's expensive.
Booths and hotels and bar tabs and flying.
And then the time doing it that you're taking away from you, where you could be being efficient.
Yeah, exactly, dude. So I mean, we did it this way because that's the way it's always been done, right? But now you can't, right? So now you're starting to have Zoom meetings, or you're having to operate around that. And we're realizing, dude, we're still doing like the same amount of we're doing, a lot more business without having to have done
less.
And so will we ever go back to
the same of what you had?
Right, but without plane fare and hotels and this and booths, and I mean,
that's a good point. I've learned, and we were talking about that earlier with these different events that were canceled this year that we normally go to. We're like, dude, that's gonna suck because we do, but actually it's like, I've refocused that energy somewhere else, and we didn't have to go to those things and spend the money to go there and deal with all that comes with that travel and expense. You can refocus doing stuff right where in your own house, and build from there. So, hopefully people that are going through this are using it in a positive manner like that. But yeah, dude, it's interesting. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see where we are in a year from now. We might all be huddled together in one of those connexes out back. Dude,
by the way, I'm really glad that you're doing this podcast, man. I mean, I think this is really good for American discourse. The like long form interview style, instead of getting ideas and concepts from like some 5-second clip that's so overly simplified,
right.
You can actually delve into some of these issues where you can understand why somebody thinks the way they do, or why this concept is the way it is. This is the best thing to happen. Like these, the podcast, especially yours, that it is good for American discourse, dude. I mean, that's why I think that the popularity of these platforms is going to go so high, because people are sick of that.
They're sick of the negative, the media, the like I said, the 2-second, 5-second clips. This, you can at least hopefully get something out of it, and really understand more from where these different folks are coming from.
Yeah.
And take something away positive from it. So I think it's, but yeah, dude, I'm glad that I was able to get you. You were one of the first guys that popped in my head. I was like, I get Mike up here, man, because we've gone through a lot together, and I love to see what you're doing, and you're very good at what you do as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, as a forward, innovative thinker. So
I owe a lot of that to you. Every time I get a chance, I tell people how much you supported us early on, like some of that initial launch, man. You helped us quite a bit. You were like, a really legitimate guy like that, knows his shit, and you help him promote us got us to like that. Got us to a point where people started paying attention, and so dude, I'm grateful for all your
awesome.
support.
Same way, man. You guys support us. We all support each other. It's how it should be, man. It's cool to see that happening, especially now. We need to have Americans come together and support each other. So, bro, man. With that, man, big love, dude. I'm so happy you came up, man. I always love you, dude. I love your gun too. It's still my favorite. I call it my clinkety clank because it's that clink clink. It's a machine. It's just you build a hammer, man. Never had one jam. Still no jam. So I freaking love it, man. Keep doing it. And I want one of those scalpers too.
It's coming, man. You right got it, dude.
All right, love you,
man.
Hey,
brother.
Been great. Welcome to the Going Rogue with Wes Whitlock podcast.